This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, so I hope you all are able to see my screen, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So now, coming to Tosca, Tosca has four components. Okay, so first one is the Tosca commander. Second one, Tosca executor. Third one, Tosca excan. And last one is the repository. Okay, so what is this Tosca commander component? As I told in the yesterday's demo class, okay, the view which you are seeing here, it is the Tosca commander. Okay, so what do you do in the Tosca commander? Like in the yesterday's class, I have told like automation is divided into two phases. One is the identification phase, and the second one is the actions phase. Correct. So, what is this identification phase and the action phase?
Can you
Whenever,
increase the font size? Uh, because we are not able, I am not able to see it clearly.
okay, I cannot increase the font size because the zoom percentage is 100. Okay, so for automation, zoom percentage should be 100. Eh, If you are asking here, yeah, I can do it here. Is it visible now?
It is visible even if you can make it a little bit bigger would be great.
Okay, fine, right?
Better, not fine.
Okay,
You can select it and make the font size bigger. You are on Note plus plus, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
okay. I think it is visible now. Hello?
Yes.
Yeah. So we were discussing about the Tosca commander. So in the Tosca commander, all the identification phase, okay, and the actions phase is done in the whole work is done in the Tosca commander component. Okay, as discussed yesterday, I have demoed you one simple example, right? So here the identification of the elements will be done in the module section. Okay, so module section is for the purpose of capturing the technical information. Okay, I'll tell you with one example. And test case section is nothing but once we capture the technical information. What is the technical information here? Yesterday we have identified this register element unique. Okay, in order to identify this register element unique, we have selected some of the properties. Correct? Inner text and tag property. Correct. In order to identify this register element unique, we have selected inner text and tag property. Okay, this is the technical information. So all these technical information we are saving in the module section. Okay, that is the purpose of module section. Identification phase will be done in the module section. Okay, and now coming to the test case. What is the purpose of this test case section? Here you can create your test cases. Okay, and here, how will you create your test cases? You will drag the module that you have created. Okay, later again I'll tell you with one example. So once you drag your module and drop it on a test case, it will become a test step. Okay, so this is a test step, and in this test step you can perform the actions on the elements that you have identified. Okay, and these elements in the module section we call it as attributes. Okay, here this register and login in Tosca terminology we will call it as module attributes. Okay, and here we will call it as test step values. Under a test step we have these things, right? We'll call it as test step values. Okay, and what is this requirement section? We will be getting requirements from the clients, right? Requirements is nothing but each and every functionality we will call it as a requirement. Okay, uh, for example, now once we navigate to this registration page here, okay, so these fields should be visible. That is one requirement. Okay, this gender, first name, last name, email, password, confirm password, all these fields should be visible. This is one requirement. Okay, and once you enter the data into these details and once you hit this register button, okay, then a successful message, registration successful message will be seen. That is one requirement. So likewise, each and every small functionality we will call it as a requirements. Okay, so this requirement section is to create the requirements. We will discuss in detail in the later classes. Okay, and test case design section. What is the purpose of this test case design section is, let's say suppose one example, if you consider this login scenario, okay, you will be having multiple credentials. Let's say suppose in your project if you are having multiple roles, okay, for each role the credentials will be different, the login credentials will be different. Let's say you if you have some manager role, role will be having different username and password. Okay, if you have some analyst role will be having different username password. Reviewer role will be having different username and password, but the sequence of steps for the login is same for everyone. Correct? To log in into the Facebook application, the sequence of steps will be the same, right? Everyone will enter the username into the username field, password into the password field, and then hit the login button. The sequence of steps will be the same, but the data, the username and password, what you are entering is different for each and every person. Okay, so if you want to test the same sequence of steps with different test data, okay, you will just create only one test case, okay, for the login scenario, and you can test that test case with different test data. You need not, if you have 10 users in your project, you need not create 10 test cases for all the users. Okay, you will just create one test case, and then you can test that test case with 10 different test data or n number of test data. Okay, that is the use of this test case design section. Okay, if you want to test with 100 credentials for the login scenario, you will just create only one test case, and you will pass 100 different test data to that test case. That is like that can be done using this test case design section. Any doubt still here? Everyone, are you able to follow with me, or do you feel it is bit fast?
No, it is fine. It is fine, Shruti.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So now coming to this execution section. Once we are done creating the test cases, okay, we will execute our test cases in the execution section. Okay, so we have two sections here. One is execution and the another one is scratchbook. If you remember, yesterday I ran the test case in the scratchbook. Okay, then now comes the question, what is the difference between this scratchbook and the execution section? Okay, so whenever you are creating the test cases, okay, you will first run your test cases in the scratchbook to see if your logic is correct or not, or if your test steps are working fine or not. Okay, and once you are done creating your test cases, then you will execute your test cases in the execution section. Okay, so now if you run your test cases in the scratchbook, your logs, it means the execution results will not be saved if you run your test cases in the scratchbook. It is just like a debugger. Okay, if your logic is failing, you can just see here at which step your test case is failing and what is that error message. Okay, what is the reason it is getting failed. Okay, but your execution results will not be saved here. So the final execution has to be done in the execution section only. Okay, where you can see all your execution results will be saved. Let's say suppose this is the one yesterday I run. Okay, if I run some other test case, no, this previous results you will not be able to see in the scratchbook. But if you run some 100 test cases, okay, one after the other in the execution section, all the 100 test case execution results you can see. Got my point, everyone? Hello?
Yes, Shruti.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So now coming to the configuration section. This we will discuss in the when we are discussing about the test data service TDS concept. Okay, it is little advanced. For now, just remember this configuration section is nothing but the settings. Okay, if you want to um, perform any settings on the test case level or test case folder level, you can do it using the configuration section. Okay, it is nothing but the settings. Okay, so this is the high level description of each and every section that is available in the Tosca commander. Okay, so now coming to the next component, Tosca Xscan. If you remember yesterday when I was demonstrating on this example, okay, how did we scan? Like in which window we have identified this register element and this login element? In the Xscan window. Let me show you. So how do you create a module? Right click on the module folder, scan, application. Okay. So now Xscan window opens. Correct. This is the same procedure yesterday we have done. And once now what does this Xscan window will display? It will display all the applications that are opened in our system. Okay. See, it is displaying all the applications that are open in my system. And from here, we have to choose whatever application we would like to automate. So you can either select this one and click on scan, or else you can double click on the application. Okay, just double click on that. And now this Xscan window will display all the elements with its HTML properties. Okay, so it is displaying all the elements that is present on the page with the HTML properties. Okay, if you click here on the right hand side, you can see the HTML properties of this technical properties. Okay, and here you have an option to click select on screen and then choose the elements. That is the purpose of this select on screen. Let's say this email ID, password. Okay. So how do you select the elements? Using this select on screen option. Once you click on this select on screen option, you will be able to select the elements that are needed for your automation purpose. Okay. And see, you have one more option like highlight selection. Okay, if you want to cross check which element it is actually referring on the page that is open, just click on that element, okay, and click on highlight selection. Okay, yeah, see, now it is highlighting. So this email, it is actually referring to this input box. Okay, and this password, if you click on this password, see, it is highlighting which one it is actually referring on the screen. Okay, so this will be useful for you. Let's say now we have here books. Okay, here also we have books element. I will select one books element, okay, and you are not sure which books element it is actually referring on the screen, this one or this one, then what you can do is click on these books and click on highlight selection. Okay, so this is the books this one is referring to. Understood everyone? Select on screen and the highlight selection. Okay, this Xscan window actually
One doubt
has,
here, Shruti.
sorry,
Hello.
come again. Hello, yeah.
If you want to select second books, then what is the process then?
Click select on screen and then choose the second books. Okay, this second element.
Okay.
Okay, and click here, click on highlight selection. See, this is the one it is actually referring. Okay,
Okay.
yeah. And this Xscan window, it has three views. Okay, one is the advanced view. Here you are seeing advanced view. and second one is the condensed view, and next one is the basic view. Okay, now the window is in the advanced view. In the advanced view only you will be able to see these properties and all. Okay, and if I click on the condensed view, see, if I click on this condensed view, my system is little slow. This window size will be minimized. Okay, see here, and here you are able to see that window. Okay, to this small size it got minimized. Okay, and in the condensed view by default the select on screen mode is on. Okay, here in order to select any of the elements you need not click on the select on screen option explicitly. Okay, by default the select on screen mode is on, but in the advanced view if you want to choose any of the element you have to click on the select on screen and then choose the elements. Okay, but in the condensed view you need not click on the select on screen because by default the select on screen mode is on. Okay, simply you can choose the elements that required for your automation. And once you are done choosing the elements, here you have review items, right? Click on this review items, again you will go back to the advanced view. Okay,
So
in the
how many,
advanced view
Shruti, how many elements can we select at a time in the condensed view?
you can select multiple elements, it is not limited.
Okay. Okay, so
Okay.
we have two books over here, right? So
Hmm.
is the HTML properties will be the same or different for both?
It again depends, okay, how the developers developed it. Okay, some of the elements you will find it will be having the same properties. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and for
How can
some
we
of the
differentiate
elements,
if we have the same properties?
yeah, that is the next topic we will discuss. Okay,
Okay.
so that
Okay.
comes under identification techniques. Okay,
Okay.
how will you identify elements with its properties, or if there will be some elements you will not be able to identify with properties unique.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, in that
Okay.
case whichever techniques you have to follow, okay, that we will discuss in the later classes. Okay,
Okay, sure. Thank you.
yeah, so for now just remember, if you want to choose any of the elements you can choose multiple elements, it is not limited to any particular number. Okay, and also remember in the advanced view, the select on screen mode is not on. Okay, you have to click on the select on screen and then choose the elements. But in the condensed view, by default, the select on screen mode is on. Okay, and now let me show you the basic view. Click on the basic here, and this is how the Xscan window is minimized in the basic view. Remember, in the basic view also, the select on screen mode is on by default. Only in the advanced view, you have to explicitly click on the select on screen and then choose the elements that are required for the automation. Okay, so now we are in the basic view. Okay, you can choose the elements required for your automation. Again, this is not limited to particular number. Okay, and from here you can go back to a condensed view or advanced view. Okay, you are able to see both the options here. Okay, these are the three views we have in the Xscan window. What is the purpose of going to the condensed view or basic view is, let's say suppose now this advanced view window size is big. Okay, and now here if you want to choose the elements on total page, okay, instead of moving this window here and there, you can simply go to the condensed view so that the size of this expand window will be smaller, and then you can choose the elements that are required for the automation. That is the use of these views. Okay, again click on the review item so that you will go back to the advanced view. Any doubts still here? Select on screen, highlight selection, condensed view, basic view, advanced view. Okay, so now if you are done creating, like identifying elements for one module, okay, all these elements, once you click on this save, a module will get created and all these elements you can see under the module. Okay, if you are done identifying the elements for these modules, you can just click on the save option here. Okay, you can just click on the save option so that a module will get created. Okay, or else if you, from this expand window only, if you want to create a new module, okay, let's say suppose now in this module, let me remove all these things. Okay, let's say suppose this module you wanted to identify only the login elements. Okay, so what all the elements you will require for the login scenario purpose, this email, password and this login, right? So click select on screen and then click on login. Okay, yeah, and now you wanted to identify all these elements which are present under categories in a new module. Okay, so without going back from this expand window to the Tosca commander, in order to create a new module, you can simply choose an option here, select new application. Okay, again choose the application here and then you can create a new module. Yes, click on yes so that a previous module will get saved, and here you can choose the application in order to create a new module. See, now again click select on screen option and choose the elements that are present under this categories. Electronics. Okay, and then click on save. Now two modules should get created. One is for these elements and another one is for this email ID, password and login. Okay, just close this one and go back to the Tosca commander and see under the module section, two modules got created. These are the two modules we have created. Okay, first module is for the login elements, and next module is for the elements which are present under this categories section. This way you can create multiple modules without coming back to the Tosca commander. Understood everyone till here? Any doubts?
Yeah, I have a quick question here.
Okay, yes, you can ask me.
Here I'm seeing a demo web shop login a couple
Oh,
of times. how do we have to change? How do we identify
Yes,
this?
we have to rename it. We have to rename these modules. Okay. If you just like I said yesterday, just right click on this module, you have an icon rename. Okay, all the icons you can see here in the mini toolbar. Just click on the rename. Okay, and this is for the login purpose, right? You have to mention it as login, and this is for the demo web shop application, demo web shop. This is how you have to rename each and every module that you have created. Okay, this I will tell you what all the standards you have to follow in the module section. Yeah, for now, for your question, the answer is yes, you have to rename. Any questions so far? Okay,
Can we change the properties in the XCAN?
module section in the X scan.
Yeah. Suppose if email is given as string, if I want to change it as varchar or something, is it possible? It's
Yes,
showing
it is
HTML
possible.
properties, right?
Yeah, it is HTML. It is displaying the HTML properties. But see, if you want to change any properties in the Xcan, you cannot change. But here in the module section, you can change it. Okay.
Previously, we have chosen two books, right? So, if we want to differentiate, how is it possible? Means, how can we change the properties for to differentiate those two books? That's what my question is.
So you will identify different HTML properties. Okay.
Yes.
So yesterday, when when I've selected only the tag property without this inner text. Okay.
Okay.
Did you attend yesterday's demo?
No, no, I have seen it. I haven't seen it. I didn't attend the
Okay.
demo.
Okay. So in order now both are links on the page. Okay.
Okay.
This register and the login both are links.
Oh,
So for all the links, if you are aware of HTML, the tag property value will be A. Correct.
okay.
Now, if I select only the tag as A without selecting this inner text property, so Tosca will not be able to differentiate which is the register element and which is the login element, because both the elements is having tag value as A. Now, in order to differentiate this register element and this login element, you have to select some other property which is having different values for these two elements.
Okay.
Okay. So
Okay.
which property is having different value? Inner text. For register element, the inner text value is register, and for login element, the inner text value is login. So
Okay.
that's how we are differentiating this register and login.
Okay.
Okay. In the similar way, if you want to differentiate these books, if you are having any HTML property that can differentiate these two elements, you can
Okay.
choose those properties. If still all the properties are matching for these two elements, okay, then
Okay.
there are different techniques in order to identify them unique. Okay, that I
Okay.
will discuss in the identification techniques concept.
Okay. Sure. Thank you.
Understood? Yeah.
Yeah, got it. Thank you.
Yes, others, any other doubts you have?
In the test module, can you show me that one? Then Tosca.
Yes. Yeah.
Module section, there is a demo web shop login. No, the same name it is showing. No, it can a problem with duplicate. If you can, same name is you will get is getting no.
Yeah,
Afterwards,
okay.
we have changed to the rename, no? Other thing.
Yes. So, see, if you have the same name for all the modules, that is still fine. You can run your test cases without failing. Okay.
Okay.
But when you consider the real time project, in the real time project, you will be creating multiple modules. And these modules, you will be again reusing it in the multiple test cases. Okay, so let's say suppose you have created some 100 modules and all the modules is having the same name. Let's say it is having only the demo web shop. Okay, and later when you are creating the test cases, you want to find which a module is having all these registration elements. Okay, so in that case, what you have to do, you have to go through each and every module, click and see the elements, which module is having the registration elements. Okay, that is the
Okay.
time taking and that is not the right approach. Correct.
Yeah.
So that is
Yes.
the reason we have to rename each and every module. Okay, now
Okay.
I have renamed this as login demo webshop. So now in future, if you want to create any test case and you require this login elements, you can simply come here and just by seeing the name itself, you will identify this is the module for the login element. Okay, so directly
Okay.
you will drag and drop this module into your test case.
Okay.
That is the purpose of renaming your modules.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, any other doubts you have? Okay, let me proceed. So far we have discussed what is this Tosca commander and what is the xcan. Okay, and there is one component as Tosca executor. Okay, the actual purpose of this Tosca executor component is to execute your test cases. Okay, but this component is not working in all the versions, and no one will use this Tosca executor component. Okay, we will execute all our test cases in the Tosca commander in the execution section. Okay, and in interviews they will ask you like what are the components of Tosca. In just for that answer you have to mention this Tosca executor, but this Tosca executor is not working in all the versions. Okay, and in the real time also we will not use this Tosca executor. We will execute all our test cases, all the complete work we will do it in the Tosca commander only. Okay, and Tosca repository. So when we are creating all the test cases here, all the modules, all this information has to be saved at some place, right? So Tosca repository will, in the Tosca repository, all our work will get saved. Okay, so that is the explanation for the components of Tosca. Okay, and now comes to the next topic, identification methods. Okay, so here the first identification method is through properties, HTML properties, and the second one is through anchor method. Okay, and third one is the index method. You can see all these identification methods in the xcan window. Okay, and fourth one is the image method. Let me show you in the xcan window. right click, scan application. It is taking time. Okay. So if you remember the Xscan window, how it looks, we have that select on screen option, right? So beside that select on screen option, there is one more option like identify by. Okay. If you click on that identify by, it will display all these methods. Like if you want to identify the element using its properties, or the anchor method, or the index method, or the image method. Okay. But every time our first approach for the identification is to be the properties. Okay. If we are not able to identify the element through its HTML properties, then we have to go for the other approach, either the anchor method or the index method. Okay. We have one more type of identification, that is the image method, but uh, the image method we cannot rely on that, because if any resolution or the font size or the background color, if anything changes, no, again Tosca will not be able to identify that element. So always we have to try to identify the elements using its HTML properties. In case if we are not identifying the element through HTML properties, then we have to go with the anchor method or the index method. Let me show. See here you have identify by. Okay. Identify by, if you click here, it will display if you want to identify through properties or through anchor method, through image method, or through the index method. Okay. And just click select on screen. Let me identify some of the elements here. Search button. No, my system is very slow today. Okay. Click select on screen and choose this one, this shopping cart and wish list. Okay. So now none of the elements are highlighting in the orange color. Okay. That means by default Tosca will select some of the HTML properties here. Okay. And with these properties that is selected here, and if your element is identified as unique, then it will not highlight in the orange color. If I unselect this inner text property and see this is highlighting in orange color, that means the element we are trying to identify is not unique with the properties we have selected over here. Okay, so in order to make it unique, we have to select some other properties. Okay, so sometimes now here, if you remember, for this shopping cart, by default, the inner text property and the tag property is selected. Okay, and with this two property combination, shopping cart element is unique. Okay, it got identified as unique. Even though with the default properties, if your element is identified as unique, but still we have to cross check with which property values this element is identified unique. That is because, see, some of the property values it will be having the dynamic data. Okay, that means this is not this static. Okay, every time this keeps on changing. Every time here within this braces, it will not be zero number. Okay, since we did not add any of the item to the shopping cart, that is the reason it is showing number zero, because we did not add any items to the shopping cart. For suppose if we have added two items to this shopping cart, then instead of 0 it will show 2. Okay, so that means this 0, it is not the static number, it will be changing. Okay, so that is the reason whenever the element got identified unique with the properties, okay, that Tosca selected default, by default we have to cross check. Okay, it should not contain any dynamic values. Okay, if it is now here in this case it has a dynamic value 0. Okay, then what we have to do, we have to remove that property and try to identify the same element with some other property. Okay, so let me select this class name. Okay, here with class name and tag property, the shopping cart is not identified unique. Okay, so now I will uncheck this class name property and try to select some other properties. Here we have default name. Okay, if you see here in the default name also, we are having that dynamic value 0. So that means we should not select this default name property. And let us see with some other properties. Class name, it is not identified unique. ID, in the ID property we don't have any values here, and in the inner text property we know it is having the dynamic value, and here in the title property it is not having any value. Okay, and here in the visible inner text, if you see, still it is having the dynamic value. Okay, so we should not select the properties that is having the dynamic values, and we don't have any other property in order to make this shopping cart element unique. Okay, so if that is the case, then what you will do is just select the property which is having the dynamic value, and then what is the value here that keeps changing every time in the inner text? Hello? Just now we have discussed what is
We
the
had one
value
more.
that keeps changing
Zero.
every time here?
Zero.
0. Okay. So here in the shopping cart, every time it will be the shopping cart only. Okay. What is that? It keeps changing every time whenever we add some items to the cart, this number alone. Okay. So in that case, what we will do is just remove that number. Okay. And instead of that number, use the wildcard. That is the star. Okay, so what happens now? What is meaning of using this wildcard is inside this brackets, it will accept any character. Okay, it will accept even if it is 0 or even if it is 1, 2, 3, 4, it will accept any character. Okay, so that's how we have to make changes whenever we have some property, whenever we have dynamic values in some property. Understood, everyone? We have to use the wildcard in the place of the dynamic value. What is the meaning of using the wildcard in the place of dynamic value? It will accept any character. Okay, so now it will just verify Tosca. In order to identify this shopping cart, Tosca will verify which element on this page is having inner text value as a shopping cart, and beside that shopping cart there should be some braces. Okay, and inside this braces it can have any character, and tag value as A. Inner text value as shopping cart, and within the braces it can have any character and tag value as A. So which is the element on the current page? It is having these values, inner text as shopping cart and tag value as A. This shopping cart element, correct? That's how Tosca will identify using the HTML properties. Any doubt still here?
Press no. And hold the power.
Sorry?
Nothing, Shruti. Clear.
Okay, fine. So with this, I will stop today. Okay. Even if you don't understand this last concept of what I told, tomorrow again I'll repeat it. Okay. Let me
So
stop
Shruti,
recording.